have a lot of good examples. I have a couple of not good examples. I think it's a good idea for you to see like what not to do and how far you should push your drawings. I'm looking for a nice, clean, excellent range of values graphite drawing. And a couple of these up here, like I want you to get closer and see them at some point. A couple of these up here are like, they were just starting to get there to that point. Some of them, like this one, is ready for shading. Fantastic drawing, right? But no shading. So that development of atmospheric space is not really there. So we're kind of combining some of the principles of atmospheric perspective with linear perspective. Atmospheric perspective is something that you'll be working with on your next sketchbook assignment. And it basically works like upon the principle that however much atmosphere is between you and a subject or an object, right? The more of that piles up, the less detail that you can see in that, right? So when you're looking at a drawing like this one, the area back here is going to be a lot less detailed because you simply can't see that far, right? Or there's more atmosphere piled up in there, so it should be hazy. And it should, there's a term for this. Leonardo da Vinci used it. It's called sfumato. So if you ever look at the Mona Lisa, obviously a reproduction of the Mona Lisa, that kind of foggy haziness that's happening in the negative space behind or in the atmosphere, the landscape behind, he used that to indicate that that's a deep space scenario. But the stuff that's closer to you should have a lot of detail. So like this little emergency panel, I'm sure you all kind of know where this is, right? Like right out in front of the gallery, moving up and into the greater part of the art and design building. And it's the same thing with these kind of light things up in here. A lot more detail up here, but less of it back here. And a lot of times you're going to want to have a lot more crisp value range elements as you're getting closer. This is not a bad drawing, but he didn't push it far enough, right? Like when you look at this one next to it and you see that really clean, deep, that deep kind of like black value that's happening in these like drop ceiling areas. To me, that's a lot more craftsmanship oriented than something like this. It's like he just got started and really didn't push it far enough, right? But something that Brandon did a great job on with this is how he drew the reflections in the polished concrete. Like that's something that I thought was really pretty killer. If you see that in your reference photo, draw that, right? I felt like this was one of the better ones that exhibits like clean modeling in terms of the use of line, right? It doesn't really look like until you get super close to it that this artist did use a lot of different line work, whether it's hatching, cross hatching, scribble gesture, whatever. But again, you get closer and you can kind of see that a little bit. So it reads as cleaner value. This person, you know my policy on smudging, yes? You might be like, oh, that's a nice value thing. No, they smudged it. So I was like, nope, not happening. I was pretty unhappy about that. Don't do this, okay? like work harder. Makes sense, right? This is, this whole thing kind of like the way that she shaded that, it just really kills the space. I don't see it receding into the depth as well as it could because I know there's got to be value changes happening in here, right? As it gets closer to this artist, there should have been some kind of reflective thing, some light happening. I know that just from looking at it. But maybe back here, yeah, it's a bunch of hatching that sort of agrees with that going back into space thing. So take a look at these, yeah, when you're working or getting your stuff out, that kind of thing. Because some of them are great examples, some of them are just getting started. But think about that cleanliness aspect, right? We're not using rulers to draw our stuff, but after we get everything worked out and you have everything roughed in on your paper, then we come in here, we lay that paper down on the table, we drop rulers in there and perfect everything, right? So when you're drawing, draw pretty light, right? Don't draw heavy because you're gonna probably have to make some editing, some erasing, that kind of thing. And know that, yes, we will clean it up. And you have to take a super good photograph of your perspective when you're doing this. You do not have to use an easel if you don't want to. I prefer an easel. I don't recommend carrying an easel down the stairs. Like if you want to do something on the main floor, take it into the elevator and just drop it that way, go down that way. I had a lot of people in the Thursday class that actually preferred to just use a board and sit on the floor. so that they can look at what they're doing right in front of them. We're going to use those skewers that I gave to you to meet out and work out the angles and things like that. So it looks like several of you were here last week, right? But again, if I said, oh, just go do that now, do any of you feel like you'd just be golden? You'd just be, oh yeah, these are the steps, right? Some of you? None of you? None of you are confident and can say that? Or none of you are not confident and can be like, no, not at all. It's good teaching to provide you with some kind of a refresher on that, right? And again, remember those sketchbooks are due Wednesday. Bring them in done, right? Because we're going to jump into we'll probably need to finish shading these Wednesday, like a little bit of time Wednesday, and then I want to start 2-point. Then we're going to be done with perspective. Hallelujah. You're welcome. And we'll have to come back to it only in situations where your choice calls for that. Or if this kind of analysis works really well for you, you're not using perspective to draw like one and 2-point perspective. You're just using the concept of a frame to help you look and see things, look at and see things and draw things, right? If any of you have borrowed the drawing boards or whatever, make sure you get them back here, right? We have 4 classes. A lot of students that need those, so make sure you're not hanging on to those and such. If you're taking one, great. Work on your stuff. Bring it back when you're done. Cool. Okay, so